Welcome to Pepper Dog's Future Force, where we
We're gonna look your best in the future.
discuss all manners of the future. This is the future contingent, I think. Future Force. Crap, that one's taken. Future. The
Usage.
future. Anyway, we're here to tell you about the future. At least a future. Way back in the day, I say way back, it's like early 90s. It was just this duo of two guys, Gary Gaz Cobain and Brian Dukins, paired up and
To make the film Future Them.
yeah, because Future Force was already taken, so they had to make like,
And then the sequel was Future Us.
yeah. But so I mean, what else needs to be said? It's about the future.
Thank you and good night.
Lots of zany synthesizer stuff and trippy visuals in both in the film and in the movie,
We'll see you last year.
and in the music and the soundtrack as well. So, actually, it's what we're talking about is the future sound of London. So,
Yeah, I guess I had heard that name. I don't know.
it's
Man, might have been vaguely familiar, but I definitely had never heard their stuff.
well,
I guess it's another one of these electronic
it's
things where it's like two guys.
yeah, like it's it's kind of like Larry Fast, where getting your booty on the floor is not mandatory, but at least it's a little bit encouraged type thing. Especially since it's the early 90s during the tribal techno period, with launching into their first album, Accelerator, from 91. Is when that happened.
Okay, now
So-
again, I thought it was from 1989. It wasn't?
No. 91.
Okay.
So,
Strictly 90s.
strictly 90s. We're not in the 80s. At least in that type of sense, but we're focusing, we're kind of deviating from just 100% machine pop, kind of weird, incorporating some tribal elements.
Yeah, what was the
Into
first
the
album?
mix.
They still had all of those jungle beats or whatever it's
Yeah,
called?
plenty of jungle beats, great bird samples. If you feel like getting your booty on the floor to like the toucan sound or something,
Proof that it doesn't kill all the birds.
some great
What's it called? Synthetic birds?
yeah,
What that thing is?
the toucan synthesizer, where you like press a button and then you press a different button for the female one. But there's
I don't want a cracker. Wait a minute, I do want a cracker.
There's some pretty sick bass lines, awesome, and awesome synth leads, of course, great samples, and there was a couple singles from that. The most notable one being that Papua New Guinea,
Oh, wait, that's right, yeah.
the most tribal of all of them.
Yeah, the Papua New Guinea song.
That was pretty. Admittedly enough, the London dance scene made a top quality selection
Cool,
when they chose to dance to that one.
repeated piano hook or whatever it is.
But I mean, I've also been a big fan of that centralized industrial track that makes you feel like you're in a dystopian breakbeat robot thing with the manufacturing and the CD pressing stuff that obviously screams robotics. So obviously also, not obviously, but it's also the most main sounding, like mainstream sounding of all the albums. from then on, you would turn the experimentalism dial like up beyond 12 for the later issues. Next album, of course, being ISDN from '94. It counts as a both live and produced album, because this is the one that was streamed onto the internet.
Oh yeah, that's good.
As it was being mastered and made and mixed and performed.
Yeah, internet streaming digital noise, or
Yeah.
whatever it stands for.
That's
pretty cool.
pretty close approximation.
One
what
of
it stands
the one of the things from the very early days of
for. Yeah,
of
94.
internet broadcasting.
Yeah, 94. And it was great that they put it on CD. Otherwise, it would sound like squished and artificial because you had to pipe it through a phone line.
Gosh, remember how crappy everything sounded back in those? Yeah.
Where, like, if your mom picked up the phone, you'd have to yell at her, "Mom, I'm trying to listen to Future Sound of London. Why'd you pick up the phone?" You know? So, but yeah,
Everything computerized sounded horrible.
yeah.
With that, there's probably a word for it. I don't know it, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where all the symbols sounded like they were like underwater or something.
Sort of a, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, a few tracks that stand out for me are like the ones with the big beats. There's a couple, one called Appendage, and the other one called Slider, that really makes your skull vibrate if you're playing it on like a 12 or 15 inch sub or whatever. But for the most part, definitely more leaning more towards the experimental end of things. And again in '94, they come out with a dedicated produced CD that was not streamed anywhere called Lifeforms.
Yes, that was the what's it called? The rainforest.
Yeah. Where
you get a feel of, yeah,
the idea, like, yeah,
like
you're
a
supposed
misty CG jungle of,
yeah. And while I was listening to it, I was picturing, various CG, not even animals at this point, just like CG amalgamations of animals were playing in my brain, kind of like a floating...
Yeah, the thing with the alien girl, it's got like a jellyfish.
CG tentacles.
She can like wield a jellyfish or something.
Yeah, it's very nice, very on point. So, and then up to 96, we got Dead Cities, the fourth studio album, easily the most dystopian feeling out of all of them.
It sounds darker, yeah.
Yeah, and it's an actual concept album, and it deals with the dystopian future, which of course was not heavily trodden upon in any fashion by 1996.
It has a plot?
It doesn't have I don't think it has a plot, but there's like loose common threads between, like, there's a loose common theme with
sort of a concept album?
Dystopian thing. Yeah, it's you could vaguely call it that. But the banger of the album, was called We Have Explosive. That was not only featured on Wipeout, an N64 game with ski racing, or not ski racing, but jet ski racing, and it was also featured on Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh yeah!
Yes. So it was great because I listened to the album before watching the movie, so I was like, oh, hey! It's a nice little nugget of surprise when I found out that...
It's kind of a shame they didn't get to be on the first one, but...
Yeah. We all can't be Psychosonic. We can't.
That you have to have some standout things on the second, what would otherwise be a relatively boring second soundtrack.
And then during the mid and late 90s, they took a break. They were probably busy doing their DJ sets and the concept of live producing, but not putting it to an album. And probably also helping other people out. But,
oh yeah, don't they have, like,
Yes.
65 or 70 different pseudonyms for collaboration purposes.
Yes, I suppose we can actually now record our supercut, because I'm going to read off the entire list of names.
Oh, why not?
With which they occupy your brain space.
Yeah, the viewers will trust us that they're real. You'll just kind of believe that we didn't make all these up. These are apparently real.
I have it all written down. So we got Aircut, Anamorphous, Androgynous, Art, Science, Technology, Candice, Deep Field, Dope Module, EMS, Piano, Filter, Impulses, Heads of Agreement, Homeboy, Humanoid, Indo Tribe, Intelligent Communication, Mental Cube, Metropolis, Part Submerged, does that say polemical? Yeah, polemical, Q, Sand Sound Folly, Semtex, Semi-Real, 6 Oscillators in Remittance, Smart Systems, Suburban Domestic, Synth IA, T-Rec, The Far Out Son of Lung, the Jazz Mags, the Orgon Accumulator, Unit 2449, Yage, Uni, and Z-Box.
There's this Yage. Long list!
All names of which they have went under on other people's albums, or have... The main two you gotta focus on for their published material is Future Sound of London and Amorphous Androgynous. So...
Kind of cool they had a Hawkwind reference in there.
Yeah.
And T-Rex.
I'm assuming Metropolis was named after the movie. And, yeah. So, so now...
for whatever reason, they didn't want to keep going by the same one ever.
Well...
Let alone their real name that's the Future Sound of London.
That's the thing, though, is like when you're living in this information age, you have to have multiple points in the database.
The anonymity.
So that...
The whole making up different usernames.
Yeah.
Yeah, the importance of fake accounts.
You occupy everybody's headspace.
The passwords, always having to either renew, change, or get a different password for your next account membership of this. Yeah.
It's how you get your name out there. You have many different names.
Increase your chances to...
But yeah, going on to 2002 with the Isness, which is the psychedelic album.
Oh, yes, the thing with the naked gals laying in the grass.
The one of 2 psychedelic albums. Anything majorly psychedelic they published under the Amorphous Androgynous name, which is... There's this Tales of Ephedera
the Amorphous Androgynous
album from 93, and then there's the Isthmus, which was released as an Amorphous album, except in America, which was released as a Future Sound of London album.
What about the companion?
Oh, the Otherness? Yeah, it was sold as a double CD set. So
both of them,
you have your Isthmus
outside of America, were Amorphous Androgynous?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which makes a lot of sense. Makes following them very easy. So,
let's see. I would maybe have a bone to pick on that I would... If you're going to have the first one be called the Isness, I would go ahead and have the second one be called the Isn't, or the Is Not, the Isn'tness.
Yeah.
What it's supposed to be.
Well,
like Sartre or whoever it is, being and nothingness.
Because, I mean, is.
Yeah, but I thought it was to be. Is.
Yeah.
The isness.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah.
The act of being, and then...
The act of not being.
Yeah, being and nothingness.
Yeah. But...
Anyway, they do what they want. We know this is a group that, in the heck, straight up does what they want.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh dang ya.
Especially by the early 2000s, they were like, well, we got pop numbers over here. Why don't we do this psychedelic thing over here? You know, one of those things. But they take another 5-year break for whatever reason.
Well,
and then in 2007, come out with the first Environments album.
Web 2.0.
Yeah, when it's time to embrace the embryonic YouTube,
the age of the
face,
internetrons. Yeah,
MySpace. They posted it to their Zynga. So
yeah, I remember you saying they made like 12 different things under the name or albums called Environments.
Environments, yeah, and they did that every year, or they did that. 2008 with Environments 2, and then Environments 3, 2010, 2012 for Environments 4. It's a new Environments album every 2 years.
On number, scale, sequels.
But
3, 4, 5.
It's great because if you ask me, I forgot to put in my feelings on the Isthmus album. The Isthmus album sounds great. I love a good psychedelic album from the early 2000s, something that you wouldn't think you would get. But the repetitive and the looping techniques, the repetitive structures of the song kind of take away from the magic of psychedelia, where like people are, the early psychedelic people are encouraged to play different things because there are humans playing the instruments, whereas mastering software and looping have kind of
talk about the jams?
seeped over to other
jamming
genres.
out?
Yeah.
Long jams of the
Yeah.
60s?
I can dig a long jam over kind of like a loop thing that sounds really good.
Yes, they at least would use those improvisations in their other stuff where it was like live improvisation.
Yeah. But so, and the Environments albums, well, if you ask me, sound good. It's like about 10 years of exactly the same. Like
Oh, I didn't get much of anything else in their whole.
hanging.
Granted, I didn't hear very much of their latest stuff, but yeah, to me it was.
You're hanging
It was
on.
basically here's some ambient music.
Yeah.
From all of their stuff past the first album.
Yeah. And like, then Gaz had an epiphany in 2019. He was like, "You remember that song Yage from Dead Cities, and how everybody ranted and raved about that one song?"
The name they went under?
The entire...
It may or may not be pronounced Yage?
Yeah, it could be pronounced Yage. I'm not 100%
Okay, so that was a song and an album?
But yeah, in 2019, they made a whole hour-long album.
Nice. Not long ago at all.
In the musical spirit of the song from the Dead Cities album.
Well, good.
Which, I mean, I wasn't exactly clamoring for a hour-long version of Yage or Yage. I think it's Yage, actually, because they pronounce it that way in the album. So yeah, it is Yage. So, but and they're doing it the same thing for 2020. There's a song on Lifeforms called Cascade, and we're getting a extended version of that. So they're still hard at work, evolving and elongating their material. Whether it counts as 2.0 or the future Sound of London, or it's just a remixed future Sound of London, or
surely they factored in all of the
re-androgyny,
time backtracking and time crisscrossing.
So
when they were making the name for their group.
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing that makes them a lot like Very Fast Man, Synergy. Going back and revisiting your old material.
I mean, yeah, but that's kind of like you could almost call that a staple among electronic people in general. When you keep wanting to make your version 2s and your version 3s with the better synthesizer technology and
George Lucas.
So, yeah, you can be revisionist. It's pretty easy to do with tech. But That's the thing, is you kind of got to be in like this certain mood to appreciate certain mood and environment, to appreciate anything past the first album. Because the first album, you can almost put the needle down and groove to it. It's kind of a standout example of what 90s European techno was. It's a little different, but it was good. And was still, again, going back to the mainstream thing. But it was very clear, starting around the mid-90s, that they wanted you to pay either attention to them, or they wanted to be a part of your headspace and consciousness for the moment. Because it's not only just about the produced albums in the mid-90s and the 2000s. It's also about the Kiss FM radio sessions that I found totally kick-ass. Got a number of awesome artists from those. And they had a few BBC sessions and whatnot from John Peel endorsement. So, those, when you go back and listen to those, they have a very live feel, very for the moment. But the Kiss FM mixes are true to their nature DJ mixes that just like where they blend the songs together, so on and so forth. But the sessions they did for John Peel are about as live as it gets. So it would have been more enjoyable probably back then, but you know, thanks to the internet and digital archivists, you can, I guess, either relive that moment today if you listen to it live back then, or you can be like, listen to it now and be like, dude, those mid-90s were a hell of a time, weren't they? So
there were plenty of things that were apparently improvised live.
Yeah.
Where they would have their computers out and just push the button whenever they wanted the lady to say that.
Yeah.
In the thing.
But
kids on the playground going, ah!
Yeah.
And then a lady going, wait a minute, this is virtual reality.
The falling the falling steel beams in the distance and whatever that acted as elements for a new track or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, if you ask me, it makes great like zone out music.
Yeah, what did they mean for the listener to be doing? How is this supposed to be appreciated?
Yeah, like,
because it's pretty clear that it's, hey, here's some ambient music for you. So I assume you're supposed to be like similar to New Age, where you're relaxing.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be in the dark.
Yeah.
May or may not be intended for being under the influence of something.
May or may not be. It probably would help, but
and zoning out.
Yeah.
While you're listening, so that way you can imagine all of the great imagination soundscapes of getting lost in the world of, you know, a CG rainforest with floating CG jellyfish or whatever.
It is pretty clear though that you're supposed to, pretty clear after the first album, I guess you should say, that you're supposed to be in this occupied.
Yeah, you're supposed to get lost in the
mind state,
in the head trip of listening. Yeah,
which is, which I mean, it's a little bit too much to say because I like Dead Cities. It's kind of like a driving album,
which is kind of a analog of the same thing.
Yeah,
especially at night when you're in your own little room.
Yeah,
in the dark. There's no talking going on. You're just listening and daydreaming / zoning out.
And I mean, I guess the only other thing the only other usage I could think of for mid '90s future sound is like say a Blade Runner movie came out during the mid '90s. I could appreciate the definite differences between Vangelis and this because, you know, not only would the movie be stylistically different because you can't, you know, comparing Minority Report to Blade Runner, they're basically two different movies. So you'd have to have your audio component be different than Vangelis as well. And I figured Dead Cities would be great for LA 2049 if it was made in the mid-90s. But we keep going back to the mid-90s thing. What future are they talking about? You know, we had the debate.
The thing that I was saying?
As to when the future actually was, or what future is it?
It's amusing / interesting to pay attention to when a rock group or when a group names themselves after something involving the music scene in British pop and British music, like Oasis.
Yeah,
they consider themselves the oasis of an otherwise barren musical scene.
Yeah.
And then you get a group that straight up calls themselves Future Sound of London.
Yeah. Like,
so then you wonder what stagnant past are they referring to that they're the future?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because in at the end of the '80s and beginning of the '90s, any techno music would have been considered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would have been proudly considered
the past.
The future of
yes.
music.
Yeah, that's right.
1989, they didn't have techno music.
Yeah, because I mean, that's right. That's just
so. Are they talking about? Because when you really think about it, or I did when I was trying to figure it out, are they talking about kind of like a Brian Eno type thing?
Yeah.
Where ambient is the future of music with regards to the whole cultural phenomenon of singers and groups and being a fan of a certain singer and a certain group and them having a lot of bands.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel like that's the kind of thing that a humanity is going to eventually move on from.
Yeah.
To where if they use popular music at all anymore, it's going to be something like this, where it's these nondescript fellas, not a whole lot of vocals and lyrics.
Right.
The opposite of the pop bubblegum.
Almost a programmed for cerebral activity.
Yeah, it's very, as you were going to say, it's very cerebral.
Yeah.
Lots of getting into some of the extropianism. Lots of like plugging it into your headphone jack behind your ear.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get your brain waves. Stuff when you think of, like, I don't know, at least 100 years in the future.
Yeah.
Was that part of what they were referring to with this whole
because
ambient thing?
We're about 30 years away, 30 years ahead of the 90s now, And
yeah, that's the other thing with the.
we're still.
Yeah, that's our time backtracking and crisscrossing element.
Yeah,
Is that this group is from 30 years ago.
we're still. As a culture, we still are.
We haven't quite gotten over.
We're not quite there yet. So
Yeah, there's still
Maybe-
idiot pop singers with
maybe-
idiot fans.
maybe Gas Cobain is a time traveler from the year 2200 who came to bless us with frequencies that triggered.
Or maybe he was just heavily influenced by the likes of Brian Eno.
Probably could have been.
Oh yeah, what was our Robert Fripp connection? Didn't they have him like involved in one of their?
Yeah, that was on. He provided guitar effects on Lifeforms.
Nice.
If I remember right. So you have Robert Fripp. If I brought the Klaus Schultz album, it would be here.
Oh yes, they had Klaus Schulze.
But from Tangerine Dream
Dude.
fame, they again on the Lifeforms
Yeah,
album.
that's when you know it's a respectable group.
So
That they had Robert Fripp and Klaus Schulze come on their album.
when you have when you have those guys come on, you know
Picture.
you're in the future.
Overall, I'll say I like their stuff, but let's put the qualifier on there for what it is.
Yeah,
I'm not huge into playing ambient music in the background. I appreciate background music. There's plenty of times where the only time I can really use the music is for background while I'm doing something else.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You definitely can't say no talking during music like this, where
Right.
it's basically ambient through and through. I'm probably not gonna use it as a meditative aid or any kind of zoning aid, but I can at least see the intent and the intended usage
yeah. I mean,
of turning out the lights and getting lost in the vibe and the soundscape. I mean, hell, didn't they make 8 albums called Environments?
yeah. So like,
May as well have called it, ambiances. So I understand what it is. The fact that they named themselves the Future Sound of London, what we were talking about is I kind of get a kick out of.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I like it. Even if it worked out to be awesome, like the right thing, say we were in the future now, the future that they were talking about, it would have been awesome, but in a different way. So, I mean,
To have been able to go back and say,
great naming scheme.
so these guys initially helped pioneer by,
Yes.
when you know it, they called themselves the Future Sound of London.
In other words, yeah.
Like if Oasis would have been called, the virtual oasis of the
Yeah.
British pop rock scene, or
Yeah.
or like these fellas, they might even have called themselves Future Sound of London, along with Brian Eno,
Mm-hmm.
the whole ambient
Yeah.
thing.
Like,
But yeah, they have some cool mixes in the Crash Course. This is another one of these where I was the complete novice. It was a group that he already knew all about, and I
the Crash Course.
was unable to do anything but spend a night at the Devil's Knee.
Yeah.
In the stuff of theirs that I heard, we listened to, I don't know, 5 or 6 full
Couple of
freaking hour-long albums,
Yeah.
and it was some nice mixes. I'll say they know their way around the
The
computer and studio
the
equipment.
cyclotron 75.
They know how to
the Manchensinator.
they know how to build a mix.
Yeah. They can loop the tape.
They're good with
Yeah.
composing these
Yeah, they're great with it.
these pretty unique
Yeah.
and interesting
I mean,
mixscapes.
yeah, for me, like, if you ask me, there's like, I'm a guy that likes to pay attention, and there's a lot of details for me to pay attention to, so I can't exactly, it would be a part of zoning out, but like, if I wanted to really zone out, I would put on like a Zen mix on YouTube. Because to me, I can pick out the differences because this is like.
Oh, like a technician's. Yeah, they're kind of a.
So.
They're kind of a mixed composer's mixed composer.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great because the mixes are very like complex and well orchestrated.
Yeah,
structured. It's great.
When they stack them, they stay stacked.
Yeah, that's right.